Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandhar Vikagiri Shishi Radha Vinod Vihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai Nityal Pavishtam Vishnupar Ashata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shri Gurudev Ki Jai Nityal Pavishtam Vishnupar Ashata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nityal Pavishtam Vishnupar Ashata Rashata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityal Bhavishtam Vishnupara Shata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nityal Bhavishtam Vishnupara Shata Rashata Shishmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai Nityal Bhavishtam Mahābhagavat Srila Gaurkishoras Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nityal Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Nityal Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhattadasa Raghunath Shad Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai Namachay Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद की जय श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय श्री भक्ति देवी की जय श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाय की जय श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय जय श्री लोचनदास ठाकुर की जय तदीय शुभ थिरुभाव तिथि की जय. Today we're going to be reading about Murāri Gupta. So Murāri Gupta ki jai. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hari Bo, Raseshwari Mataji and Rup Manjari Didi. Dandavat pranams to both of you. Alright, so we're starting Mangala Charan. Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Atar Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Ajanulambita Bhujao Kanakavadato Sankirtanaikapitaro Kamalayataksho Vishvambaro Dijavaro Yugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Namastrikala Satyaya Jagannatha Sutaya Cha Sabhrityaya Saputraya Sakalatraya Te Namaha Jai 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 Vishwambhara Dvijaraj Jai Vishwambhara Priya Vaishnava Samaj Gaurachandra Jai Dharma Setu Mahadhir Jaya Sankirtana Moy Sundar Sharir Jaya Nityanandir Bandhava Dhana Pran Jaya Gadadhar Advaitir Prema Dham Jaya Shri Jagarananda Priya Atishay Jai Vakreshwar Kashishwarir Hriday Jai Jai Śrīvāsa Priya Varganath Jiva Pratikoro Prabhu Shubha Drishtipat Madhya-khaṇḍa katha jeno amriter khanda je katha shunile ghuche antar pashanda Madhya-khaṇḍa katha bhai shuno ekchitte sankirtana aramba hoilo jeno mate tavai vasmi na jivami tvaya vina Iti vigyaya devi tvam nayamam charanantikam. Bhaktya vihina aparada lakshai kshiptashtakamadhitaranga madhe kripamai tvam sharanam prapanna vrinde namaste charanaravindam. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvāsa Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The Glories of Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata and Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur from Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita. Ore muro lok shuno Chaitanya Mangal, Chaitanya Mahima Jate Jani Veshakal, Krishna Lila Bhagavate Kohe Ved Vyas, Chaitanya Lilar Vyas Vrindavana Das, Vrindavana Dasa Koilo Chaitanya Mangal, Jahar Shravane Nashe Sarvaya Mangal, Chaitanya Nitar Jate Jani Mahima, Jate Jani Krishna Bhakti Siddhanter Sima, Bhagavate Joto Bhakti Siddhanter Sar, Likhiya Chen Iha Jani Koriya Udhar, Chaitanya Mangal Shune Jadi Pashandi Javan, Sheho Maha Vaishnava Hoy Totokon, Manushe Rachite Nare Aiche Granta Dhanya, Vrindavana Dasa Mukhe Vakta Shri Chaitanya, Vrindavana Dasa Pore Koti Namaskar, Aiche Granta Kori Teho Tarila Sangsar, Narayani Chaitanya Ruchishta Bhajan, Tar Garbe Janmila Shri Dasa Vrindavan, Tar Ki Arbhuta Chaitanya Charita Varnan, Jahar Shravane Shuddha Koila Tribhuvan, Shahaje Vichitra Madhur Chaitanya Vihar, Vrindavana Dasamukhe Amriter Dhar, Vrindavana Dasamukhe Amriter Dhar. By nature, all the activities of Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata are very wonderful and sweet, and when they are described by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, they become like a shower of nectar. Jai Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata ki Jai, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur ki Jai, the Gaudiya Bhashya of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai, Sachi Nandan Gaur Hari ki Jai, Swapashad Shri Gaur Hari ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Hare Krishna, Nire Hari Prabhu, and Bhavatarani Mataji, and YouTube, Facebook, Raseshwari Mataji, Root Manjari Didi, Ganga Mataji, and Hari Priya Didi. Dandavat Pranams. And I see there's some others watching as well. Pranams to whoever you are. Hare Krishna. All right, so we are continuing our reading of Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata, Madhya-khaṇḍa, and we're starting chapter 20. The Glories of Murāri Gupta. Okay, I'm just going to read this first paragraph. We'll read the full summary tomorrow. This chapter describes Mahaprabhu's revelation of Nityananda's position in Murāri Gupta's dream. His refutation of the philosophy of impersonalism, Murari's offering of foodstuffs in his house to Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu's resultant indigestion and cure by drinking Murari's water, Mahaprabhu's acceptance of a four-armed form in the house of Śrīvāsa, Murari's acceptance of the mood of Garuḍa, and Mahaprabhu's climbing on Murari's shoulders. That's what we're reading up to today. And then tomorrow we'll read about Murari's resolution to give up his body and the Lord's prevention, and topics such as the author's comparison of blasphemous sannyasis to plunderers. So, yeah, that's our reading for today. Let's just jump right into it. Haribol, Kishore Prabhu. Jai Nitai, Jai Murāri Gupta. Okay. Jai Jai Gaura Singha Shri Shachi Kumar. Jai Sarvatapahara Charana Tomar. All glories to Gaura Singha, the son of Shachi. All glories to your lotus feet, which take away all miseries. Gaudiya Bhashya by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. The material miseries of living entities who take shelter at the lotus feet of Śrī Gaurasundar are destroyed. Śrī Gaurasundar does not encourage any form of mundane activities. He helps the living entities realize their constitutional position and thus delivers them from all forms of material miseries. Jai Gadadhar Prananata Mahashai Kripa Koro Prabhu Jeno Tohe Manaroy. All glories to the life and soul of Gadadhar. O Lord, please bestow your mercy on me so that my minds may be fixed on you. Gaudiya Bhashya. Śrī Gadadhar Pandit Goswami fully engages in the service of Krishna under the shelter of Madhurarati, or attachment and conjugal love. Śrī Gaurasundar, who is non-different from Vrajendra Nandan, is the master of Śrī Gadadhar's heartfelt endeavors. Henamate Bhakta Goshti Thakur Dekhiya Nache Gai Kande Hase Prema Purna Hoya. In this way, when the devotees saw the Lord, they danced, sang, cried, and laughed in ecstatic love. Emate pratidine ashisha kautuka bhakta shange gaura chandran kore nana rupa. In this way, every day Lord Gaurachandra performed unlimited pastimes with the devotees. Ekadina Mahaprabhu Nityānanda Shange Śrīvāsa grihe boshi ache nana range. One day, Mahaprabhu was enjoying the association of Nityānanda in the house of Śrīvāsa. Aila Murāri Gupta henoi shamoy Prabhur charane danda paranama hoy. Sheshe Nityānandere koriya pranam. Sammukhe rahila Gupta Mahajyotir Dham. Murāri Guptere Prabhu boro sukhi mane. Akapate Murāri re kohen apane. Je korila Murāri na hoy vyavahar. Vyatikrama koriya korila namaskar. At that time, Murāri Gupta came there and offered obeisances at the lotus feet of the Lord. The greatly effulgent Murāri Gupta next offered his obeisances to Nityānanda and stood before them. The Lord was very pleased with Murāri, so he spoke to him without duplicity. He said, "O Murāri, what you have just done is not proper. You have transgressed etiquette while offering obeisances." Gaudiya Bhashya. Murāri Gupta offered obeisances first to Lord Gaurasundar and then to Nityananda Prabhu, and then to Śrī Nityananda Prabhu. Objecting to the sequence of Murāri Gupta's obeisances, Mahaprabhu told him, "You have a misconception regarding Baladev's senior position and my own junior position. Especially since you are a devotee of Sri Balaram. The conclusion is that if the Supreme Lord is worshipped without first worshipping Sri Guru and Jagadguru, the proper sequence is broken. In common language, there's a saying, Goda dhingaiya ghasa khaite nai. One should not jump over the horse to eat the grass. Without the mercy of Sri Guru, no one is qualified to serve the Supreme Lord. Kotha tumi shikhaiba jena iha jane vyavahare heno dharma tumi langha kene. You are supposed to teach those who do not know these things. So why are you transgressing such principles by your own behavior? Murari boloye Prabhu janibo ke mate, mor chitta tumi loy acho jeno mate. Murari said, O Lord, how will I know? You induced me to act like that. Prabhu bole bhalo bhalo aji jaho ghare, shokol janiba kali bolibo tomare. The Lord said, all right, go home for now. I will speak to you tomorrow, and you will understand everything. Sambrame chalila Gupta shabhai harishe, shayana korila giya apanarabase. Feeling both joyful and apprehensive, Murāri Gupta departed. He went home and took rest. Swapne deke Mahābhāgavater pradhan, mallaveshe Nityānanda chole aguan. In a dream, he saw Nityānanda, the most exalted of all pure devotees, dressed as a wrestler, coming towards him. Nityānanda shire deke Mahanagapana, kore deke Shrihal Mushalatana. He saw a great serpent spreading its hoods over the head of Nityānanda, who held a plow and a club in his hands. Nityānanda murti deke jeno haladar, shire paka dori pache jai Vishwambar. He saw that Nityānanda looked just like Haladar, and he saw Vishwambar fanning him from behind. Hare Krishna Brishti Roy. Swapne Prabhu Hashi Kohe Janila Murari, Ami Je Konishto Mane Bujaho Bichari. The Lord smiled and spoke to him in the dream. Have you now understood, Murari? You should consider me junior. Swapni Dui Prabhu Hase Murari Dekhiya, Dui Bhai Murari Re Gela Shikhaiya. The two lords smiled as they looked at Murari in the dream. After instructing Murari, the two brothers disappeared. Caitanya Gupta koro ye krandan, Nityānanda boli shwas chhade ghana ghan. On awakening, Murari began to cry. He sighed deeply again and again and called out, Nityānanda! Mahasati Murari Gupter Pativrata, Krishna 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 bole hoy shachakita. Murari Gupta's most chaste wife became frightened and called out, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Boro bhai Nityānanda Murari janiya, cholila prabhur stane anandita hoya. Realizing that Nityānanda was the elder brother, Murari joyfully went to see the Lord. Boshiyache Mahaprabhu Kamala Lochan, Dakhineshe Nityānanda Prasanna Vadan. The lotus-eyed Mahaprabhu was sitting with the brightly smiling Nityānanda at his right. Age Nityānandair charane namaskari, pache bande Vishwambar charana Murari. Murari first offered obeisances at the lotus feet of Nityānanda, and then offered obeisances at the lotus feet of Vishwambar. Hasi bole Vishwambar, Murari ekeno, Murari bolo e Prabhu, lawai le jeno. Vishwambar smiled and said, why did you do this, Murari? Murari replied, O Lord, I have acted according to your instruction. Pavana karane jeno, shushkatrina chole, jiver shakal dharma tor shakti bole. As a blade of dry grass is blown in the wind, all living entities act on the strength of your potencies. Haribol Sudevi Didi. Gaudiya Bhashya. Since dry grass is relatively lighter, it is easily blown by the wind. In the same way, the Supreme Lord's potencies, which are the basis of everything, control the activities of all living entities. Prabhu bole Murari, amar priya tumi, ataeva tomare bhangilo marma ami. The Lord said, O Murari, you are very dear to me. Therefore, I have informed you of this confidential truth. Kohe Prabhu nija tattva Murarir sthane, jogai tambula priya gadadhara bami. The Lord then described his glories to Murari. As the Lord's beloved associate, Gadadhar offered the Lord betel nuts from his left. Prabhu bole mor das Murari pradhan, ato boli charvita tambula koila dan. Thereafter the Lord said, O Murari, you are the best of my servants. Saying this, the Lord gave Murari his chewed betel remnants. Samprame Murari joda hasta koriloi, kaya Murari mahanande matta hoy. Murari respectfully accepted those remnants in his two hands. After honoring those two remnants, Murari became intoxicated with ecstasy. Haribo Shubhananda Prabhu. I was wondering where you've been these couple of days. The Lord said, Prabhu bole Murari shakale dho hat, Murari tuliya hasta dilek matata. The Lord said, O Murari, quickly go and wash your hands. Yet Murari simply wiped his hands on his head. Gaudiya Bhashya. The word shokale means without delay or quickly. Instead of washing his hands, he just wipes his hands on his head. Prabhu bole, are beta, jati gelo tor, tor ange uchishta lagilo shab mor. The Lord said, your caste is ruined. You have become contaminated by touching my remnants. Gaudiya Bhashya. According to the Smritis, a person who eats another's remnants spoils his caste. Bolite prabhur hoilo ishwar avesh danta kadam madakori boloye vishesh. As the Lord spoke, he became absorbed in the mood of the supreme controller. Grinding his teeth, he spoke with great resolve. Sannyasi prakashananda voshoye kashite, mor khanda khanda beta kore bhalo mate. A sannyasi named Then Mahaprabhu said, a sannyasi named Prakashananda lives in Kashi. That fellow enjoys cutting me to pieces. Gaudiya Bhashya. The Mayavadi sannyasis of Kashi considered, this material world is false. There is no variety in Vaikuntha. The varieties found in this world are false. The living entities have no eternal form. And out of illusion, the Supreme Brahman imagines that he has taken the form of the living entities. When this illusion is removed, the impersonal Brahman remains. The Supreme Lord has no spiritual form, because all forms within this material world are illusory. Impersonal Brahman is eternally formless. The names, forms, qualities, associates, characteristics, and pastimes of the Supreme Lord are the result of vivarta, or illusion, born of material conceptions, which in English is called anthropomorphism. There is no worshipable Supreme Person in the form of the Supreme Lord. The principles of service and the object of service are found only in the material context. The conception that the Satchidananda personality of Godhead is separate from impersonal Brahman is born of vivarta. Worship is temporary. To consider the Supreme Personality of Godhead as impersonal is freedom from ignorance. So these are the ideas of the impersonalists. Being cheated from spiritual life, the sannyasis of Kashi tried to destroy the spiritual body of the Supreme Lord by cutting it to pieces. The Mayavadi sannyasi named Prakashananda was the leader of such sannyasis, and he became prominent among all sannyasis during the time of Mahaprabhu. Because of the prominence of envy in this material world, the main occupation of impersonalism is to attack the concept of eternal variegatedness. This was not the desire of Śrī Gaurasundar. And right now, Manjari said, We have all happily spoiled our caste by taking our Guru and Vaishnava Thakur's remnants. Yes, Haribol. Haribol Janardhan Prabhu. Gaur Haribol. Okay. Right now, Śrīvāsa translated an article about how Prakashananda Saraswati and Prabodhananda Saraswati are not the same person. And Vaijanti Mala Mataji, she's editing it right now. And she said it's a very juicy, very fun, like just really amazing article. And we're going to publish it in this book, Prabandha Panchakam, 5 Essential Essays. Yeah, for some reason, it wasn't in the previous edition. So now we're going to include it in this edition. Porai Vedanta mor vigraha namane, kushta korailo ange tabu nahi jane. He teaches Vedanta, but does not accept my form. I gave him leprosy, yet still he does not understand. Gaudiya Bhashya. Since it is possible to derive various meanings from the Vedic statements, persons of different taste find the various statements of the Vedas contradictory because of their own narrow-mindedness. So in order to appease their scriptural disagreements, Sri Krishna Dvaipayan Vyasadeva compiled the Badarayan Sutras. These sutras became distinguished from the other 5 philosophies of India and became renowned as the philosophy of Vedanta. Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary on these Vedanta sutras. The Srimad Bhagavatam declares that the absolute truth known as Bhagavan is identified as Brahman and Paramatma, words appropriate for 2 particular classes of men. Although addressed by these different names, this object is actually one without a second. Those who disregard Vidvadrudi, the conventional meaning of words according to enlightened persons, and who take shelter of Agyarudi, the conventional meaning according to unenlightened persons, they observe the Supreme Lord as separate from Brahman and Paramatma. To establish a philosophy that is more or less impersonalistic, this class of commentators on the Brahma Sutras explain Vedanta in a way that appeals to the Buddhists and are thus simply frustrated by Buddhist argument. Being advanced in the process of material conceptions, such covered Buddhist Vedantists become entangled in the false arguments of this world of enjoyment. As a result, they tried to maintain their supremacy and authority by preaching a philosophy that is different from that of the genuine Srimad Bhagavatam. Haribol Mahibharat Prabhu. Envy of the Supreme Lord, denial of the Supreme Lord's form, and striking the Supreme Lord's body with a trident are other names for the offenses they accumulate, while trying to prove that the philosophy of impersonalism is the purport of Vedanta by rejecting the philosophies of Dvaita-Dvaita, that's monism and dualism, Shuddha-Dvaita, purified monism, Vishishta-Dvaita, specific monism, Shuddha-Dvaita, purified dualism, that are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. I've mentioned this before, but I'm just going to mention it again. You know Sundar Gopal, Simon Haas, Sundar Gopal from England. So he's doing a PhD right now with through Cambridge University, and Cambridge, yeah, and so he's been having to do very intense study of Vedanta Sutra. And he said that the conclusion that Western, just like completely neutral Western scholars came to is Achinta Bheda Bheda from reading Vedanta Sutra. Just like from a completely impartial viewpoint. They're like, yeah, see, sometimes it's, sometimes it's explaining difference and sometimes it's explaining non-difference. They're even, Western scholars were able to surmise that from Vedanta Sutra. It is most futile to endeavor to separate a spiritual body from the owner of the body. That is why the chief sannyasi of Kashi, Prakashananda, developed leprosy throughout his perishable body. If materially learned people attack the spiritual body of the Lord, they will develop leprosy in both their gross and subtle bodies. Wonder what leprosy in the subtle body is like. Since such lepers do not accept the form of the Supreme Lord, they are forced to enjoy the fruits of such an offense. Oops, I said Cambridge. I meant this is Oxford, the Oxford Center of Hindu Studies. Oh, Haribol Rukmini Didi. Okay, thanks for clarifying. Sorry. So since such lepers do not accept the form of the Supreme Lord, they are forced to enjoy the fruits of such an offense. This universe is factual. It's not false. It's not illusion. The foolishness and arrogance of those who reject this without considering the temporary nature of the living entity's body in this material world, and who then declare that this material world, manifested by the Lord's external energy, is false, and the bodies of the living entities of this material world are perishable and false, rather than perishable and true, they fall into the category, this all falls into the category of offense. Innumerable universes are simply the manifestation of the Lord's external energy. Since the material time factor functions within the external energy, foolish people take shelter of ignorance that is attained by material endeavor. These Mayavadis do not accept the bodies of this material world to be products of the Lord's external energy. Rather, they display a weakness in their flow of thought by accepting the eternal form of the Supreme Lord as a product of matter. The internal energy of the Lord always fully preserves the spiritual nature and remains eternally blissful. Attacking spiritual variegatedness with a mentality based on denial of material variegatedness attacking spiritual variegatedness with a mentality based on denial of material variegatedness is like Ravan's futile endeavor to kidnap Maya Sita. The Mayavadis are non-devotees and offenders in all respects. Their journey on the path of devotional service is duplicitous and ends in offense. I remember in Jagannath Puri, our Dadu there, he's very old and kind of eccentric, but his way of you would say, like his way of insulting somebody is like Mayavadi. Even if the person wasn't like, you just say, Mayavadi. Okay. Ananta Brahmanda More, Jay Angete Boishe, Taha Mithya Bole Beta Kemone Sahase. It's like his way of saying idiot, Mayavadi. So Mahaprabhu says, he's saying to unlimited universes are present within my body. So how does that fellow dare to claim my body is false? How does that fellow Prakashananda Saraswati claim that my body is false? Satya kaho Murāri amar tumi das, jay namane mor anga she jai nash. O Murāri, I am telling you the truth, for you are my servant. Anyone who does not accept my form is vanquished. Gaudiya Bhashya. Śrī Gaurasundar said to Murāri, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you are my surrendered servant. I am the proprietor of both my internal and external features. Those who consider my external features as equal to my internal features certainly become conditioned by Maya and cannot understand my internal feature, Vaikuntha. Hare Krishna. The Mayavadis attribute a difference between my body and self. Although Mayavadis displaying a restless mentality declare that this material world is produced by Maya as false, because of their pride and their manipulation of external knowledge, they endeavor to achieve nirvana mukti, or freedom from material existence. Such endeavors are simply symptoms of self-destruction. But the servants of the Lord never desire to become separate from the Lord. The endeavor to become separate results in self-destruction. Aja bhavananta prabhur vigraha she seve, jay vigraha prana kori puje sarva deve. The Supreme Lord's form is served by Brahma, Shiva, and Ananta. All demigods worship this form as their life and soul. Gaudiya Bhashya. Brahma, Shiva, and Anantadev, who are worshipable by all living entities, serve the spiritual form of the Lord. All demigods worship this form as their very life. Those who imagine formlessness rather, those who imagine formlessness rather than serve the spiritual form of the personality of Godhead transgress Brahma, Shiva, Ananta, and the various demigods. Those who are intoxicated with pride for their own gross or subtle bodies think that the source of all forms is formless. Actually, such imagination is simply the materialists' or Mayavadi's pride or foolishness. Punyapati rata pai je anga parashe taha mithya bole beta kamone shahase. Even the pious become purified by the touch of this form. So how does that fellow dare to claim my body is false? Gaudiya Bhashya. Since the Mayavadis claim that the material world is false and therefore consider piety, purity, and the mode of goodness as sinful, impure, and a mixture of goodness, passion, and ignorance, the flow of their imagination is unable to ascertain the absolute truth. But the omnipotent Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only basis of all existence. Those who cannot understand that the Supreme Lord is eternally aloof from any difference between his body and self claim that the material world is false and fall from the truth by attributing a difference between the Lord's body and self. Only people who are most impudent have the audacity to declare that the eternal, spiritual, blissful form of the Lord is false. Satya satya koro tore e parakash satya mui satya mor das tar das. I openly reveal to you that I am eternal. My servants are eternal, and the servants of my servants are eternal. Nitai mor charana satya. What is it? Nitai charana satya tahara sevaka nitya. Gaudiya Bhashya. The manifestations of the Supreme Lord are eternal and situated diametrically opposite to illusion. The Supreme Lord is factual. The service of the Supreme Lord is factual. And the servants of the Supreme Lord are factual. Attributing materially designated temporariness on the Supreme Lord and the devotees endangers the concept of the supersouls and the jiva's soul's unchangeability. The material world is temporary, yet even though it is not the supreme truth, the Supreme Lord and the devotees, who are both transcendental, are eternal truths. The conception that is derived from considering them products of matter in such false, gross, and subtle bodies, in other words, identifying spiritual substance or the self with material designations, is simply an example of vivarta, or illusion. But one cannot mistakenly accept the spirit soul as devoid of spirit. Satyamor lila karma, satyamor sthan, iha mitya bole more kore khana khana. My pastimes and activities are eternal, and my abode is eternal. Anyone who says they are false cuts me to pieces. Gaudiya Bhashya. If anyone thinks that the eternal blissful form of the Lord is imaginary, that the pastimes of the Lord are imaginary, or if anyone preaches that the abodes of the Lord, like Vaikuntha, are imaginary, then this is like attributing incomplete material considerations of body and self on those supreme spiritual objects, which are filled with all opulences. Those claiming to know the Supreme Brahman and those yogis who maintain such envy towards the Supreme Lord are perpetually bereft of the complete understanding of the Supreme Lord and the service of the Absolute Truth, Vrajendra Nandan, and thus become established in temporary, incomplete conceptions. Jai Jasha Shravane Adi Avidya Vinash Papi Adhyapake Bole Mityashe Vilas. By hearing my glories, all ignorance is destroyed. Yet sinful teachers say the Lord's pastimes are false. Gaudiya Bhashya. By hearing the qualities, names, and glories of the Supreme Lord, the course of people's material thought is destroyed. Those who through material consideration come to the understanding that temporary material objects are false and the pastimes of Hari are insignificant, like mundane perishable objects, such so-called learned proud teachers, entangled by the ropes of Maya, indulge in sinful activities and thereby commit offenses. Jai Jasha Shravana Rase Shiva Digambar Jaha Gai Apane Ananta Mahidhar Jai Jasha Shravane Shuka Naradadi Matta Chari Vede Vakhane Jai Jasher Mahatva Heno Punya Kirti Prati Anadar Jar She Kabu Na Jane Gupta She Kabu Na Jane Gupta Mor Avatar. Huh. Shubhananda Prabhu was saying the screen isn't moving with the reading. Wonder if my internet's going slow. Let's see. Might be my internet. Let's see how it is now. Looks pretty fast. Oh, maybe the upload's not fast though. Okay. So Mahaprabhu said, Shiva leaves aside his clothes while relishing my glories. Lord Ananta, the sustainer of the universe, personally sings my glories. Personalities like Shukadeva and Narad become intoxicated by hearing my glories. The greatness of my glories is described by the four Vedas. O Murāri, anyone who disregards such auspicious glories can never understand my incarnation. Upload and download is very fast right now, so I don't know why that's happening. Gaudiya Bhashya. By the pleasure derived from hearing topics of the Lord, Mahadev gives up his clothing in the form of identifying himself as the husband of Bhavani. The unlimitedly powerful Anantadev, who sustains the universes, constantly chants the eternal glories of the Lord. Liberated Mahabhagavats like Shukadeva and Narad surpass the stringent laws of material nature and become intoxicated by hearing the transcendental qualities of the Lord. And the four Vedas constantly describe the greatness of the Lord's glories. Those who are opposed to such spiritual masters and pure knowledge can never properly understand the subject of the Lord's incarnation in this material world. That's interesting. Here it says that, because we hear very often that Shiva dances so wildly that he becomes Digambar, right? Like that he isn't wearing any clothes. The four directions are his clothes. But here it's saying that Mahadev gives up his clothing in the form of identifying himself as a husband of Bhavani. So I wonder if that means that when it says Shiva leaves aside his clothes while relishing my glories, that means that he forgets who he is and all that. Like, yeah, it's interesting. Okay. Gupta lakhe savare shikhai bhagavan satyamor vigraha sevaka lilasthan. By teaching Murāri, the Supreme Lord taught everyone, my form, servants, pastimes, and abodes are all eternal. Okay, Raseshwari says that the text is moving, so I think it might be your internet connection, Shubhananda Prabhu. Apanar tattva prabhu apane shikhai, iha je namane she apane nasha jai. The Lord personally taught the truth about himself. One who does not accept this is vanquished. Gaudiya Bhashya. The Lord enacted the pastime of imparting instructions by teaching Murāri Gupta. One who is not fortunate enough to accept this is never able to save his soul. Khaneke hoila bahya drishti vrishambar, punashe hoila prabhu akinchanavara. Within a short time, Vishwambar regained his external consciousness and returns to his previous humble state. Gaudiya Bhashya. As soon as Srimad Mahaprabhu glanced at the material creation, he immediately gave up all material opulences. He gave up all material opulences and glories and became more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, and ready to offer respect to everyone without expecting any respect for himself. without expecting any respect for himself. He properly established himself as a servant by renouncing his position as the worshipable Lord. ভাই বলি মুরারি রে কইলা আলিঙ্গন বড় স্নেহ করি বলে সদয় বচন. The Lord embraced Murari and accepted him as his brother. He then mercifully spoke to Murari with great affection. Satya tumi Murari amar shuddha das tumi she janila Nityaanander prakash. O Murari, you are truly my pure servant, for you have realized the glories of Nityānanda. Nityanande jahar tileka dvesha rahe dasa hoile o she mora priya nahe. Even if my servant has the slightest envy for Nityananda, he is not dear to me. Gaudiya Bhashya. Anyone who renounces the sense of respect for the lotus feet of Jagat Guru Śrī Nityananda and discriminates against his service by considering him equal to oneself loses all sense of discrimination. Garuḍa jaho Gupta tumi amare kinila Nityānanda tattva Gupta tumi she janila. O Murāri Gupta, go home for now. You have purchased me because you have understood the glories of Nityānanda. You have understood Nityānanda Tattva. This way you have purchased me. Amare Kinila. Gaudiya Bhashya. At the time of bidding farewell, Śrī Mahaprabhu said to Murari, you have properly understood the glories of Nityānanda. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead realized how Murāri Gupta had intense love for Śrī Nityānanda Prabhu, who was his manifestation, the Lord understood that Murāri Gupta was Hanuman. On seeing Murāri Gupta's worship with attachment in the mood of servitorship, Śrī Gaurasundar realized his identity in the pastimes of Ram. Therefore, Murari became a recipient of Mahaprabhu's mercy because of his intense love for Nityananda. Heno mate Murari, Prabhur kripa patra, e kripar patra sabe Hanuman matra. In this way, Murari became such a recipient of the Lord's mercy. Only Hanuman received mercy like Murari. Anande Murari Gupta gharete chalila, Nityananda shange Prabhu hridaye rahila. Murari Gupta returned home in ecstasy, yet the Lord, along with Nityananda, remained within his heart. Gaudiya Bhashya. Having received the mercy of Mahaprabhu, Murari Gupta returned home. Gaur Nityananda remained present within his heart. The statement, Krishna always resides in the hearts of his devotees, is thus confirmed. Antare vivala Gupta chale nija vase, eko bole aar kore kholo kholi hase. Parama ulase bole koribo bhojan, pativrata anna ani, koilo upasanna. Vivala Murari Gupta Chaitanya rase, khao khao boli anna phele grase grase, घृतमाखी अन्न सब पृथ्वीते फैले, खाओ 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 कृष्णा ए बोलो बोले, हासी पतिव्रता देखी गुप्तेर व्यवहार, पुनः पुनः अन्न आनी दे बारे बार. महाभागवत गुप्त पतिव्रता जाने, कृष्ण बोले गुप्तेरे कोराय सावधाने. मुरारी दिले से प्रभु करोये भोजन, कबू ना लांघये प्रभु गुप्तेर वचन. When Murari Gupta returned home, his heart was overwhelmed. He would chuckle to himself as he said one thing and did something else. In jubilation, he said, I will eat now. Then his chaste wife brought lunch for him. Being overwhelmed with love for the Lord Chaitanya, Murari Gupta threw handfuls of rice to the floor while calling out, eat, eat. As he threw rice mixed with ghee to the floor, he repeatedly exclaimed, eat, Krishna, eat. On seeing Murari's behavior, His chaste wife laughed. She repeatedly brought more rice and placed it on his plate. Murari's chaste wife knew that he was a Mahabhagavat, so she cautioned him by chanting the name of Krishna. Whatever Murari offered, the Lord ate. The Lord never disregarded Murari's requests. Okay. Gaudiya Bhashya. After returning home, Murari offered Krishna rice cooked by his wife by throwing handfuls of it to the floor in his house. The large quantity of rice was offered in this way. Mahaprabhu could not reject the rice that was offered by Murari. Whatever devotees eagerly serve the Lord, being controlled by service, accepts that. Jotta anna de Gupta tai Prabhu khai, bihane asiya Prabhu Guptere jagai, boshiya achen Gupta Krishna nama nande, eno kale Prabhu aila deki Gupta bandhe. Parama adare Gupta dilen asan, boshilen Jagannatha Mishrer Nandan. Gupta bole Prabhu kene hoilo agaman. Prabhu bole ailam chikitsa karan. Gupta bole kohibe ki ajirna karan. Kono dravya kali korila bhojan. Whatever rice Murari offered, the Lord ate. Early the next morning, the Lord went to Murāri Gupta's house to meet him. Mahaprabhu arrived as Murāri Gupta was sitting there enjoying the ecstasy of Krishna's names. Upon seeing the Lord, Murari offered his obeisances. Murari then respectfully offered the Lord a place to sit, and the son of Jagannath Mishra sat down. Murāri Gupta asked, "O Lord, what brings you here?" The Lord replied, "I came for treatment." Murāri Gupta then said, "What is the cause of your indigestion? What foods did you eat yesterday?" Gaudiya Bhashya. With a desire to find a remedy for his indigestion, Sri Gaurasundar went to Murari's house early in the morning. Murari directly asked him about the cause of his indigestion. Prabhu bole, "Are beta, jani bhi kemone, khao boli anna feli jokhone." And yeah, he's speaking in the Tui case now. Jani bhi pelili. The Lord said, "My dear friend, how will you know? You threw rice on the floor and said, 'Eat, eat.' Tui pashirili tor patni shob jane, tui dili mui bana khaibo kemone." You forgot, but your wife knows everything. You offered it to me, so how could I refuse to eat? Ki lagi chikitsat koro anyaba panchana, ajirna mohartor aner karana. What is the use of your treatments and remedies? I got indigestion by eating your rice. Jol pane ajirna korite nare bolo, tor anne ajirna aushoda tor jolo. Drinking water relieves indigestion. My indigestion was caused by eating your rice, so the cure is drinking your water. Ato boli dhori murarir jol patra, jol piye prabhu bhakti rase purna matra. After speaking in this way, the Lord, fully absorbed in the mellows of devotional service, bhakti rase, he picked up Murari's water pot and drank from it. Kripa deki Murari hoila achetan, Mahapreme Gupta Goshti koroye krandan. Seeing the Lord's display of mercy, Murari fell unconscious. Gupta's entire family then cried in ecstatic love of God. Gaudiya Bhashya. When Murari's family members saw Mahaprabhu drink water, they began to cry in love. Heno Prabhu, heno bhakti, yoga heno das, Chaitanya prasare hoilo bhaktir prakash. How glorious is the Lord! How glorious is his devotional service! And how glorious are his servants! Such devotional service was manifested by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Chaitanya prasade hoilo bhaktir prakash. Murari Gupter dase Jay Prasada pailo, she nadiyai bhattacharya na dekhilo. The mercy received by Murari Gupta's servants could not even be seen by the Bhattacharyas of Navadvip. Gaudiya Bhashya, even the learned Brahmins of Navadvip were not eligible to receive the good fortune received by the servants in Murari Gupta's house. Such so-called qualified persons did not have the good fortune to even see the mercy received by the servants in Murari's house. Vidyadan pratishtai kichui na kore, Vaishnaver prasade she bhakti phala dhore. Nothing is achieved through education, wealth, and fame. The fruits of devotional service are achieved by the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Gaudiya Bhashya. That which is not achieved through people's education, wealth, good birth, and fame was achieved through the mercy of the Vaishnavas, by even the servants of devotees like Murari Gupta. Jai Shikene Nahi Vaishnaver Dasi Das, Sarvotama She E Veder Prakash. Whoever the servants and maidservants of the Vaishnavas may be, the Vedas declare, they are the best of all. Gaudiya Bhashya. However significant or insignificant the servants and maidservants in the house of a Vaishnav may be, those who have realized the purport of the Vedas know well that the servants and maidservants of the Vaishnavas are the greatest of all. E mata Murari re prati dine dine kripa kore Mahaprabhu apana apane. In this way, Mahaprabhu personally bestowed mercy on Murari every day. Shuno shuno Murarir arbhuta akhyan, shunile Murari katha pai bhakti dan. Pai bhakti dan. Just hear the wonderful topics concerning Murari Gupta, for by hearing these topics, one achieves the treasure of devotional service. Ekadina Mahaprabhu Śrīvāsa mandire, Hunkara Koriya Prabhu Nija Murti dhare, Shankha Chakra Gada Parma Shobhe Chari Koro, Garuda Boli Dake Vishvambara, Henoy Shamoy Gupta Abhishta Hoiya, Śrīvāsa mandire Aila Hunkar Koriya, Gupta Dehe Hoilo Maha Vainateya Bhav, Gupta bole muishe Garuḍa Mahābhav. One day in the house of Śrīvāsa, Mahaprabhu roared loudly and assumed his four-armed form. With his four hands decorated with conch shell, disc, club, and lotus, Vishvambar called out, Garuda, Garuda! At that time, Murari Gupta entered Śrīvāsa's house, fully absorbed in bliss and roaring loudly. Fully absorbed in the mood of Vinata's son, Murari Gupta said, I am that great devotee, Garuda. Gaudiya Bhashya. As soon as Mahaprabhu manifested the form of Narayan in the courtyard of Śrīvāsa and called for Garuda, Murari came there, fully absorbed in the mood of Garuda, while considering himself to be Garuda. I have a hard time saying Garuda. Garuda. I'm just going to say Garuda. When the Lord called for Garuda, Murari manifested an attitude of service suitable to Garuda. Garuda, Garuda boli dake Vishvambar, Gupta bole e mui tomar kinkar. As Vishvambar called Garuda, Murari Gupta replied, Here I am, O Lord, your servant. Prabhu bole beta tui amar bahan, hoy hoy heno Gupta bolo e vachan. The Lord said, My dear friend, you are my carrier. Murari Gupta replied, Yes, yes. Gaudiya Bhashya. The Lord accepted Murari as his carrier, and Murari approved. Gupta bole pasharila tomare loyas varga hoite parijata anilo. Oops. God, that's so annoying. Let's sing that again. Okay. Gupta bole pasharila tomare loya swarga hoite parijata anilo bohiya. Murari Gupta continued, perhaps you forgot that I carried you and the parijata tree from heaven. Gaudiya Bhashya. See Śrīmad-bhāgavatam 10th canto, chapter 59. Pasharila tomaloya gelu banapure khanda khanda koilu mui skander mayure. Perhaps you forgot, O Lord, that I carried you to Banapur, where I tore Kartikeya's peacock to pieces. Gaudiya Bhashya. See Śrīmad-bhāgavatam 10th canto, chapter 62 and 63. Ei mor skande prabhu arohana koro agya koro nibakon brahmanda bhitara. O Lord, climb on my back and tell me to which universe should I take you. Gupta skande chare prabhu mishrer nandan jai jai dwani hoilo Śrīvāsa bhavan. The son of Jagannath Mishra then climbed on the back of Murari, and the entire house of Śrīvāsa was filled with the vibration of Jai, Jai. Skande Kamalarnath, Gupter Nandan, Raradiya Paka Phire Shakal Angan. Taking the Lord of Lakshmi on his back, Murari Gupta ran around in the courtyard. Skande Kamalarnath, Gupter Nandan, Radadiya Paka Phire Shakalangan. Murari Gupta ran around the courtyard, with the Lord of Lakshmi on his back. Jai hula huli de pativrata gan, Mahaprem bhakta shab koroye krandan. The chaste wives made auspicious sounds, and all devotees cried in great ecstatic love. Oh, and interesting. I've never heard hula huli. It's also, I guess, hula dhuni. Keho bole jai jai, keho bole hari, keho bole jeno e rupa na pashari. Someone chanted, Jai, Jai, and someone chanted, Hari. Someone else exclaimed, May I never forget this form of the Lord. Keho mala shat mare, parama ullase, bhalore thakur boli keho keho hase. Someone slapped his arms and thighs in jubilation, and someone smiled as he declared, How glorious is the Lord! Jai Jai Murari Vahana Vishwambar, Bahutuli Keho Take Kore Uchaishwar. Someone raised his arms and loudly exclaimed, All glories to Vishwambar, who is carried by Murari. Murarir Skande Dole Goranga Sundar, Ulase Brahmaye Gupta Badir Bhitor. Śrī Gaurasundar swayed in ecstasy on the back of Murari, who happily wandered throughout the house. She Navadipe hoy esha prakash, dushkriti na deke Gora Chandrer vilas. These pastimes of Gaurachandra took place in Navadip, but sinful people were unable to see them. Dhanakula pratishtai, Krishna nahi pai, kevala bhaktir vasha Chaitanya Goshai. One cannot attain Krishna by wealth, high birth, or fame, for Lord Chaitanya is controlled only by devotional service. Keval bhaktir vash Chaitanya Goshai. Gaudiya Bhashya. Lord Krishna is not achieved by wealth, aristocratic birth, or the accumulation of name and fame. He is controlled only by service. Unfortunate people cannot see the pastimes of Śrī Gaurasundar. Janme janme je shav korilo aradhan, shuke deke ebe tar dasa dasigan. The servants of those who worshipped the Lord birth after birth were now able to joyfully see these pastimes. Jeva dekilek sheva kripa korikoi, tatapiha dushkritir chitta nahiloi. Those who saw such pastimes mercifully described them to others, yet the hearts of sinful people do not accept them. Gaudiya Bhashya. Even though persons who directly experience the pastimes of Śrī Gaurasundar describe them to others, unfortunate people are unable to have faith in them. Absence of good fortune is the impediment in seeing the Lord's pastimes. Madhya-khaṇḍe Gupta skande prabhur uthana, sava avatare Gupta shevaka pradhan. In this Madhya-khaṇḍa, the Lord climbs on the back of Murāri. Yet Murāri Gupta is a leading servant in all the Lord's incarnations. Eshav lilar kabo abadi na hoy, avirbhav tirobhav evede koy. Although the Vedas describe the Lord's appearance and disappearance, there is actually no end to his pastimes. Bahyapai nambila Gauranga Mahadhir, Gupter Garuḍa bhav hoilo shusthir. On regaining his external consciousness, the most sober Gauranga got down from Murari's back, and Murari's mood as Garuḍa disappeared. E boro nigura katha ke ho nahi jane, Gupta skande Mahāprabhu koila arohane. Ordinary people cannot understand these most confidential topics of Mahaprabhu climbing on the back of Murari. Murari re kripa dekhi Vaishnava mandal, dhanya 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 boli prashangse shakal. On seeing the Lord's mercy on Murari, all the Vaishnavas praised him as being most glorious. All right, so that is our reading for today. We're reading up to verse 102. I'm going to just read some of the translations of what we'll start with tomorrow. Murāri Gupta was a most glorious devotee. His devotional service to the Lord was fruitful, for he had the ability to carry Vishvambar in his pastimes. Such are the auspicious topics regarding Murāri Gupta. There are many more topics yet to be described. One day, the most pure Murari thought about the position of the Lord's incarnations. Actually, I'm not going to read this whole thing because it will be long. And but yeah, we're going to hear about. Anyways, we'll get there tomorrow. I think the Lord tells him to worship Krishna instead of Ram, and so then he wants to give up his life because he's not able. So we're going to read that pastime tomorrow. But today is the disappearance day, or is it appearance day? It is the disappearance day of Lochan Das Thakur. So maybe we can read from this Srila Bhakti Vallabha Tirtha Goswami Maharaj's book, Śrī Caitanya and His Associates. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Okay, let's find Lochan Das Thakur. There it is. Okay, so Lochan Das Thakur appeared in 1523 in Kogram, in the Katwa block of the Burdwan district. This village is about 10 miles north of Guskar train station. The Thakur's home is situated near the Ajay River. His birth tithi is given by some as the first day of the fortnight of the waxing moon in Posha. He was born in the Arada clan of the physician caste, Vaidya, like Murāri Gupta. His father's name was Kamalakar Das. His mother's name was Saranandi. One second, just stretching. Oof, okay, sorry. His mother's name was Saranandi. He was a very affectionate and lone child of the couple. Lochan Das studied while at his maternal grandfather's house. He displayed devotion for Mahaprabhu from his childhood. Lochan Das was married at a very young age, according to the customs of that time. Since he had been married so young, his wife first remained with her parents in the village of Ahmedpur, Kolkata. As he grew older, Lochan Das showed a highly renounced attitude to life and spent all his time discussing Krishna Katha with other devotees of Gauranga. As the time approached when his wife was to join him, the girl's parents began to worry because of Lochan Das's indifference to material life. They approached his guru, Narahari Sarkar, and told him of their disquiet. As a result, Narahari Sarkar ordered Lochan Das to go to his in-laws' home. When Lochan Das arrived in Ahmedpur, he was unable to remember where their house was, since it had been so long since he had visited. He asked a young girl in the street for directions, addressing her as Ma, or mother. When he arrived at his in-laws' house, he found out that the girl whom he had addressed as his mother was in fact his wife. From that day on, he always looked upon his wife as a mother, worshipping Guru and Gauranga in an attitude of renunciation. The Chaitanya Mangal. Narahari Sarkar Thakur, Mahaprabhu's famous associate from Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata, was very affectionate to Lochan Das and gave him initiation. Lochan Das Thakur enthusiastically took up residence with his guru in Śrī Caitanya-bhāgavata and served him. His guru taught him about kirtan and later ordered him to write Mahaprabhu's sacred biography. Lochan Das took this order seriously and wrote the Chaitanya Mangal, the events of which are based on Murāri Gupta's Chaitanya Charita. The word Mangal means auspicious. Wow, and we're just reading about Murāri Gupta today. So Lochan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Mangal is based on Murāri Gupta's Chaitanya Charita. The word Mangal means auspicious, and this title reflects the fact that hearing Mahaprabhu Śrī Chaitanya's divine pastimes is the most auspicious activity for all living beings. Vrindavan Das Thakur's biography of the Lord was first named Chaitanya Mangal and was only later known as Chaitanya-bhāgavata. Lochan Das gives an indication of this in the introductory portion of his book. He said, "I attentively pay my obeisances to Vrindavan Das Thakur. His Bhagavat songs have enchanted the entire universe." So in the beginning, Sutra-khaṇḍa section, verse 35. Some people believe that Lochan Das Thakur and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami gave the name Chaitanya-bhāgavata to Vrindavan Das Thakur's book. In the Chaitanya Mangal, Lochan Das prays for his guru's blessings as follows. He said, "Narahari Thakur is the proprietor of my life, and out of the hope of attaining his lotus feet, I desire to sing the glories of Gauranga, even though I am the lowest of the low. This is my ambition." It's Chaitanya Mangal, Sutra-khaṇḍa 1.9. I offer my reverences to Narahari Das, the ocean of Gauranga's qualities. Other than him, I have no friend in the three worlds. That's Chaitanya Mangal, also beginning part, Sutra-khaṇḍa 1, verse 33. I'm just going to say the verse number, not the... Yeah. My Lord and Master is Narahari Das. I prostrate myself in humility to him. May he fulfill my desires. That's from Chaitanya Mangal, Sutra-khaṇḍa, verse 61. Lochan Das Thakur wrote the Chaitanya Mangal in Eastern Bengal's Panchali style, completing it in 1537 AD. There's a legend that he wrote the book while sitting on a stone under a flower tree, In his new Bengali dictionary, Ashutosh Dev has underlined Lochan Das's contribution by stating that he was one of the first to write Bengali poetry using vowel-marked meters, as well as being one of Bengal's earliest historical writers. The original manuscript of the Chaitanya Mangal is said to be found in the personal library of Pran Krishna Chakravarti of Khandra, near the Gushkar train station. Interesting. Other titles attributed to Lochan Das are Parthana Durlabhasar Padavali, also known as Dhamali, and Bengali verse translations of Ramananda's Jagannath Vallabh Natak, and the Raspanchadai of Śrīmad Bhagavatam. Lochan Das's songs glorifying Nityānanda. In Chaitanya Mangal, Lochan Das Thakur describes his guru, Narahari Sarkar Thakur, as Mahaprabhu's dearest associate. He does not describe Nityananda Prabhu's glories as extensively. Fearful that he may have committed an offense by neglecting Nityananda Prabhu, he later wrote a few songs in his praise. These songs are particularly well appreciated by the devotees. Let's read it from the songbook, Gaudiya Giti Gucha. One second, I'm just going to get my mridanga while this loads. God, where is it? Where did it go? Oh, there it is. I don't know what's wrong with my brain right now. Come on. Oh, it's right there on the other screen. Okay. So, which kirtan is it? I started getting sleepy all of a sudden. It is... Sorry. My brain is really not functioning. Nitai Gunamani Amar, Nitai Gunamani. Okay, I'm going to get the mridanga and we'll sing this together. Nitai Gunamani Amar. Actually, let's just sing it from here. I really liked... Yeah. That's not difficult to read, right? Yeah. Okay, sorry guys. Let me make sure noise cancellation is off. Once again, just turning on music for... Oops. Okay. There. Nitai Gunamani Amar, Anitai Gunamani, Aniya Premer Banya, Bhashailo Abani, O Premer Banya, Loya Nitai, I love Garuḍa deshe, Dubilo Bhakata Gana, Dinahina Bhashe, O Dinahina Patitapa, Hamara nahi pache, Brahmar durlabha prem, sabakare jache, abadha karuna sindhu, katiya moha, Ghare Ghare bule prem ami aroban locham bole mor nitai jebana bhajilo janiya shuniya she atma ghati hoilo. Nitai is a jewel of virtue. My Nitai is a jewel of virtue. He brought the deluge of love of God and flooded the world. Nitai brought the deluge of love of God to Garuḍa and he inundated the devotees. The lowly and deprived floated in that flood. Nitai never excluded the lowly and deprived, nor the sinful and atheistic. He freely distributed love of God, which is beyond the reach of even Brahma. Nitai released the floodgates that held back the ocean of compassion, going from door to door to give everyone the nectar of the love of God. Lochan Das says that anyone who has not worshipped Nitai has knowingly committed suicide. Akrodha Paramananda Nityānanda Rai Abhimana Shunya Nitai Nagare Bedai Adham Patita Jiver Dware Dware Giya Harinam Mahamantra Den Bilaiya Jare Deke Tare Kohe Dante Trina Kore Amare Kiniyalo ho bhaja Gaura Hari Eto boli Nityānanda bhume gadi jai Sonar parvat jeno dhulate lotai Aheno avatare jarati na janmilo Lochan bole she papi elo argelo. Completely free from anger, Lord Nityananda Prabhu is the embodiment of supreme joy. He wanders throughout the town without any pride or arrogance. He knocks on every fallen soul's door and bestows the Maha Mantra of the holy names on him. Placing straw between his teeth, he says to everyone he sees, he says, "Worship Gaura Hari, and you will purchase me and make me your slave." Saying thus, he tumbles on the ground in an ecstatic fit, looking like a golden mountain rolling in the dust. Whoever lacks faith in such a compassionate avatar is a sinner who will die having made nothing of his life, says Lochan Das. Aparama karuna pahudui janitai Gaura Chandra Sabhayavatar Sara Shiromani Kevalayananda Khanda. These two lords, Nitai and Gaura Chandra, are most compassionate. They are the essence of all other avatars of Godhead. They are the most perfect, for they are the unique source of joy. Bhajo bhajo bhai Caitanya Nitai Sudrida Vishvasa Kori Vishai Chadiya Shera Se Majiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari. Oh brothers, worship Chaitanya and Nitai with great faith. Give up the objects of sense gratification. Absorb yourself in the flavors of their divine mood, and use your tongue to sing the names of Hari. Dekho ore bhai, tribhuvane nai, emon doyala data. Pashu pakhi jure, pashana bitare shuni, jar gunagata. Just look, O my brothers, there is no more compassionate benefactor than Gaur Nitai anywhere in the three worlds. Even the birds and beasts shed tears in ecstasy, and stones melt when they hear their virtues. Shangshare majia, rohili poria, shepade nahilo asha. Apana karama punjay shaman, kohoy lochana dasa. I have fallen into worldly life, completely absorbed in mundane pursuits, and have never aspired to attain them. The God of judgment is making me suffer the consequences of my acts. So sings Lochan Das. Srila Lochan Das Thakur was present on the occasion of Sri Narahari Sarkar Thakur's disappearance festival. In Bhakti Ratnakar, it is said that he came there with Yadunandan Thakur, bringing garlands of flowers and sweet-scented sandalwood. Okay. And we're almost finished. Gaur Nagari doctrine condemned. Followers of certain heterodox groups, or Upasampradayas, they say that the Gaur Nagar doctrine is found in the Chaitanya Mangal. This is not true. Vrindavan Das Thakur writes in his Caitanya-bhāgavata, no one should praise the Lord by calling him the golden playboy. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada comments, Gaur Sundar is Krishna who has been endowed with Radha's bodily hue and her mood of love. Thus, he never abandons the qualities of the heart of Radhika and the other gopis, that is, the character of the ashray of devotion and the conjugal mood. This means that he never acts like the Vishai, like the object, or bhokta, enjoyer of madhur ras, by looking at other women in the spirit of a playboy. It's from Gaudiya Bhashya, Adi Khanda, chapter 15, verse 30. Sometimes he would take the position of bhokta as the enjoyer, or the Vishai, like we read today, even with Murāri Gupta, but never in bhokta of madhur ras, of the conjugal mellow. That never happened in Mahaprabhu's pastimes. He never saw other women in the spirit of wanting to enjoy them. Lochan Das Thakur ended his pastimes in this world in 1589 AD. His brick samadhi is seen at his Shripat. Jai Shri Lochan Das Thakur ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari, Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai, Nityānanda Vishnu Vishnupara Shatara Shata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Nityānanda Vishnu Vishnupara Shatara Shata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj ki Jai, Nityānanda Vishnu Vishnupara Shatara Shata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Dang it, I just noticed it says original sound for musicians off, so you probably didn't hear the mridanga. Anyways, doesn't matter. Nityānanda Vishnu Vishnupara Shatara Shata Shishmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki Jai, Nityānanda Vishnu Vishnupara Shatara Shata Shishmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki Jai, Nityānanda Vishnu Mahābhagavata Srila Gaurkishora Babaji Maharaj ki Jai, Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai, Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai, Nityānanda Vishnu Vishnupara Srila Bhakti Balavat Tirtha Gosai Maharaj ki Jai, Nityānanda Vishnu Vishnupara Srila Bhakti Daita Madhava Gosai Maharaj ki Jai, Nityānanda Vishnu Vishnupara Srila Bhakti Puri Gosai Maharaj ki Jai, Jai Saparshad Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shara Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Naam Achay Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय. श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जाय. सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदाता गिरिराज महाराज की जाय. श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद की जाय. श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जाय. श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जाय. श्री भक्ति देवी की जाय. श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जाय. श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जाय. श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. जय श्री चैतन्य भागवत की जय. जय श्रील वृंदावन दास ठाकुर की जय. द Gaudiya Bhashya of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada की जय. जय श्री मुरारी गुप्ता की जय. जय श्री स्वापाशा जी गौर हरि की जय. जय. Murāri Gupta's taking the form of Garuḍa and the Lord's climbing on his shoulders. Ki jai. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Shri Lochandas Thakur ki jai. Tadiya Shubha Tiravav Titi ki jai. Jai Shri Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha. Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat Pranams, everybody. Nri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, Shubhananda Prabhu, and on YouTube and Facebook, who is all there? Let's see. Raseshwari Mataji, Rup Manjari Didi, Ganga Mataji, Hari Priya Didi, Kishore Prabhu, Janardhan Prabhu, Mahi Bharat Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams Prabhu, Rukmini Didi, and everybody else. Dandavat Pranams. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you all tomorrow for to read the rest of this chapter. Now we're going to hear about what real love is, what real nishta, what real dedication and intense one-pointed exclusive devotion to one's Lord is. We'll see the perfect example of that in the life of Murāri Gupta. Such a beautiful pastime that's very often quoted. We'll read about that tomorrow. And then what's coming up next after that? It doesn't matter. I'll look later. All right. Does anybody have anything they'd like to mention before we end the reading for today? Nri Hari Prabhu or Shubhananda Prabhu? All right, so I'll see you all tomorrow. Hari Bol. Dandavat Pranams.